It's Wednesday, May 24th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today we end up with another two down day, taking out the low yesterday. We gapped down. We started lower right from the open. We were heading to some targets that we didn't reach yet. We reached one target here, but not the two that I still think we're heading towards. And then we kind of pulled up a little bit towards the end of the day, but didn't really close that strong. So it was definitely a follow-through day from yesterday. When I saw that bar yesterday, I was anticipating lower. The only way to get long would be to start above the midpoint of this day and possibly get a two-up day going, but price action clearly was gapping down. If we look at the pre-market range between the blue lines, we were opening up right near the lows and our first bar went down. Now, I really didn't, even though at that point with that first bar down, second bar following through, you could have bought puts there. I wasn't looking to do that given that it's already, some exhaustion risk and then you're gapping down. So when I see a gap down, I'm not as excited to get short right out of the gates on this type of move. I'd almost rather see a little bit of an up move first that curls back from a kind of a green to red, but it didn't do that. In a moment, I'll show you a few times I try to buy puts after the initial move. So that's what I kind of do. If it just continues lower and I see it's really a negative day with some obvious targets, which I shot a whole bunch of videos why I think these triple lows here are targets, then I can stay aggressive on the downside, even though, we're gapping down on the day. But, you can still, at this point, with the exhaustion risk in play, if we want to pause a little bit, we have an actual gap in here, and then we have a fair value gap between the low of this bar and the high of this bar. So the market can certainly rally at any point up here and pause and curl over. But what we have now is a two down week. We took out the low of the previous week, and that does target to those lows I was talking about by the end of the week, and we still have 2 days to get there. So we'll see. I've seen times like this where we just go down, 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 down for a few days in a row. I talked about how yesterday we might be failing up at our key inflection point and moving all the way back down through the range, and at the moment we might be still doing that, and that's why I'm not surprised to see the follow through the downside. And now that we're heading lower here, you can just see these, I think these stops, there were a couple of buys during that week. This was the few weeks ago where we had those big buys coming in when we try to go lower. I think there's stops right here, and that's the bigger picture, but in the shorter run, there's these stops right here. So there's a whole area we could be taking out, and that would, take us down not only to this area but all the way back through the range. So we'll just see. But price might, it might be tricky to get there. But the key is right now with this weekly chart going lower, we can't really get excited to go long until, we can, I guess, if you really gap up tomorrow and everything reverses. Nvidia's coming out with earnings, maybe that'll give a spark to the market. You can try a long trade and see if this was just two big down days that reverse up. I'm not anticipating that, but it's possible. But other than that, I'm still thinking this week's going to probably end up somewhat red, and we're going to have to get some kind of a reversal into the next week, or maybe a two down into the week after, and then a two up, or an inside bar and up. It's going to be hard to turn this market back up given these the pretty strong move down, but we'll see what happens. It's also, I think, a little tricky to get some immediate follow through to the targets, given that you've gapped down, or you went down strongly and then gapped down today. Maybe it just wants to pause on Thursday before heading lower, maybe by Friday. But you never know. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, in terms of today, just to recap it, the easy trade was just to go with the price action and get short here. And then there were all types of ways to catch the morning move to the downside. I shot 3 videos if you want to look at them where I try to short here. It's all this purple line that I drew in where I was generally getting short. One time was here to take out the lows of the day. It did it. I took a small gain. I described that. Once I saw this failure move, I got short again around here and eventually got a red bar and took out the lows of the day again, and I took a small profit there. Then after the Fed minutes were released, and I saw this kind of 2 up, 2 down, I got short one more time looking for the lows of the day, and I shot a video how once it didn't follow through on this bar, I decided to exit because it's just choppy and tricky, and we'll see what happens. And then obviously we came up, and if this doesn't show you what algorithms are all about, then I don't know what does. In other words, once we started up here, we took out this high, and the intraday high, and boom, you took it all out, and then you come all the way back down. So, it's just showing you once you had this move up, and it was, you had all these short sellers like trapped. Like, let's say I didn't exit this, I would have been trapped, trying to go short with those targets below. All of a sudden it wants to come up and take out all the three of these stops real quickly, and then boom, it reverses. So I'm not saying, you could buy it, if you wanted to, you could have aggressively bought it here and anticipated that. I was kind of anticipating it, but it wasn't any type of trade I'm looking for. I'm generally looking for the first move of the day, and then, given the context, we're below the midpoint of the prior day, I'm just looking for tests of whatever intraday low is made. That's my methodology. But, again, not surprising that it came up, took out all these stops, and then kind of immediately reversed. So you kind of got to just know what price action's doing, kind of making higher highs and lower lows on its way to lower targets. But, you can see here now, after this big move up and this big move down, we do have... it could pause in here a little bit before continuing lower, but definitely I think we're heading down there until proven otherwise, and maybe even all the way back through this range that we boxed in, and we took out a key level, stopped at a key inflection point, and seems to be wanting to come back all the way through the range until proven otherwise. So we'll kind of monitor the weekly chart for that. That's what I usually do in the bigger picture, just to make sure I'm in line with that. And if this wants to, as long as we're below the open this week, I'll continue lower, and then we'll see what happens into next week and where the opening is. But until that, I'm looking for lower prices. So let's see what happens. And again, just going over the trades. Otherwise, I was biased to the long side to start. What were the trades? I bought Twilio here. That ended up being a nice trade to the upside. I even bought Netflix early. I discussed how it kind of, I scaled out up at intraday highs, and then I was able to break even on the rest of that trade. Eventually, it gave you another move to the upside. Meta, there was a trade here where I took a very small loss. Same thing as Netflix. I was trying to get that move to the intraday high and never made it, so I got in here with these double pause and then got right out. It eventually worked its way higher, and then I even had a Tesla trade at the end of the day, a little 2 down, 2 up here to just take out the highs of the day. So it's not like it was an easy day of trading. Even these SPY trades for me, fortunately, on the 15-minute chart, were all small gains. So it was a little tricky. The best trade was still to sell right out of the gates here, but that was aggressive given that you're gapping down. But that's where price action led you. If you got in there, your stop would have been the midpoint of that first bar, and then you could have waited for a red. So you might have taken a small loss if you were ultra aggressive, and it just immediately reversed. But in this case, it didn't. So anyway, that's the recap. Gap down. We were anticipating lower. There were some good trades. There were probably other stocks that I didn't catch that were even better, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So we'll just have things go tomorrow. Still looking for that target to the downside. And, I still know it might be a little tricky because of the exhaustion risk in the short run, but we'll see if we just kind of hold up, maybe come up into this gap and then reverse lower. There'll be, we'll watch the pre-market tomorrow and then judge what to expect.